Kevin here with J29 Creative Group. I have Eric with me today, owner of Alpha Graphics.
Yep, down in Belton, Missouri. We just recently acquired the business from a little family-owned group down there by the name of Fletcher Forms. They'd had it in the family for about 20 years, and we have taken it from a local business to a franchise and have brought in a lot of new capabilities to the local area.
Yeah, so when it comes to Alpha Graphics, it's a printing company, right? And we're a digital marketing agency, and a lot of times, there's this misconception that, hey, print is going away.
Explain something.
But tell me a little about that. What are the challenges with your business today with all this digital stuff going on?
I think the biggest one is some print is going away. A lot of people realize that you no longer have the JCPenney catalogs out there, the big Sears catalogs. We don't see that like we used to in the old days. Newspaper isn't around like it used to be. All things that are considered the print industry, and that's what a lot of people talk about. What isn't going away is the local print. What do we do for a local company? How do we communicate to local customers and that one-on-one marketing that's out there? That's not going away and is actually growing. So print isn't going away, it's just changing what's being printed and who you're trying to get it to.
Yep, and I think in this episode, it's so important to understand, right? Marketing is marketing, and doesn't matter if it's print or what we do, social media or building websites. It's all about connecting with your target audience and being able to reach them, in a different manner, right? And all these are just vehicles to get us from point A to point B. But I think we get into this fad, just like I know there was a time when, eating beef is healthy because the cattle industry wanted to sell more beef, right? And then there was a time when dairy was like the be all for your bones and getting taller. Me being only 5'4", 5'5", I was lactose, but I drank milk because I thought it's gonna help me grow that couple inches. But it obviously didn't work for me.
It didn't work. I understand that one.
But that is marketing, right? We always wrap the story around it. And right now the going thing is, hey, you gotta be digital. Everything's digital, but then we forget there's still room for some of the things that we did in the past.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, there's a lot of room actually. People are not a single sense individual. We don't respond to just one sense. We don't just see, we don't just smell, we don't just touch. And marketing and digital versus print versus in-person communications all have to go together. You can't do one without the other. A great example is how do I market socially if somebody doesn't have a computer or a phone?
That's good.
It doesn't work. And so marketing is most effective when it has multiple touch points, and that is never going to change. Social media and digital has just added a touch point that we can use with trying to communicate our message to our customers. And the more ways you can do that with a customer, the more effective your marketing is going to be, or the more effective your communication is going to be. If you leave one out, you're just leaving a way to make a new friend, make a new customer on the table.
And also, I think print today is also smarter,
Much
right?
smarter.
The way print is done, you can somewhat measure the ROI because a lot of time it is tied to a back end with data, right? Versus the old way. Now there's QR codes that you can put on print. It's just how you skin that cat, how you do it, And I think it's having that understanding, like Eric said, it's really a holistic approach, right, to marketing. It's not, I hate it when people come to us as a marketing agency. I don't even like calling ourselves a digital marketing agency because we, at J29, we really don't look at, we do websites, we do social media, or it's not any of these things, right? We really come and listen to our clients and their need, understand the story behind it and who they're trying to connect with, and we shape that into a form that works for them within their budget, right? Example, we recently just did that big RV show in Bartle Hall. There was a lot of print involved because, the show won't look very good if there's no banners, there's no things hanging up in the ceiling, there's no, people want to take home something, right? It can't just be digital only, right? Digital can drive one aspect of the buyer journey, but it can't do the other.
And a lot of people forget how wide the print industry really is. They think of things as business cards, or they think of a flyer. And you talked about how personalized you can get with it. QR codes is one way to do it. We can do variable data in which we can change all the images and information on each single piece depending on who it's going to. It becomes extremely customizable, which wasn't what existed 20 years ago. 20 years ago, you put it on a very large web press and you made 100,000 copies of the exact same thing and then you gave it out to everybody and hoped it worked. We can now take it down to the individual level in doing that. And the other aspect is you talked about the digital medium. One of my favorite things is people go, well, why do you need floor graphics? How many people today are walking around a store looking at their phone? They don't look up to see a sign anymore, they look down. So that's where advertising and graphics has now been started to put on the floor, because that's where you actually people's eyes are. And so that's print media. And it's evolved to where our customers are going and what they're doing and how they're behaving. And that's something that people don't always associate with print media, print advertising, but that's exactly what it is. And so what are we doing there? Now we're combining the fact that they're on their social and we're putting print there to reinforce a message or maybe change a message and get them to think of something different.
So at J29, we focus on small to mid-sized businesses. So how can a small to mid-sized local business today take advantage of combining social and print?
A lot of it is using the same materials that you've done. So you've created a lot of graphics and message and content for social. We just take it and say, okay, now what is that we want to hand to a customer? Or what is it that we want that customer to see on the window when they walk in our store? What is it that we want to be able to have them walk away with as far as those snippets? And all you're doing is reinforcing that message to the customer so that they see it more than once, so that they remember it. And that's what is more effective most times about print than it is about social or digital, is if you have something in your hands, you remember it a little bit better. People are tactile. It sticks. Now, if I saw it and then I touched it, now I'm going to start putting things together. I'm going to start remembering it longer. I've got a longer duration on which that's going to stick with somebody. And that's what you're trying to do with marketing. And that's why you're using multiple channels to try to get to your customers.
So from your experience with print, how long does it usually take for someone to actually remember you or your brand? What would you say is, I know there's people that just do print once, but why is it important to have that frequency?
Well, the frequency, it's like learning. You don't learn by picking up something just once. It's like I can read about something once and I'll remember little bits and pieces of it, but the further away dust is, it's gone. But if I read about it multiple times or I practice it, it's kind of like the repetition that you get with learning. See one, do one, teach one. So the more times you're doing that, the stickier it gets. And the more consistent a message is between a social and a print and a verbal communication, the stickier it gets, or a radio ad. So that's where that becomes the repetition. Most people say you go through 10 no's before you get a yes on a sales call.
Yep.
It's the same type of a thought process that you're doing when you're doing the marketing, is you have to be consistent and you have to be repetitive with it. You can't mail one postcard and say it didn't work. Well, what else did you do? How else did you communicate to them? Well, I did that and I'll never do it again. Well, that's not a very effective thing. That's like, calling somebody up, leaving a message and they didn't call me back. Well, I'm never calling them again. Why? Because they didn't call you back? I mean, it is that repetition. It's that, consistency that puts that all together that makes it successful.
And I think we live in a culture where we want that instant gratification. But the truth is, when it comes to marketing particularly, it's never instant, right? it takes time, and we talk about it so much here at J29 Creative Group, is that it takes consistency. It takes telling that same story. That's why, rule of thumb, you don't want to just rebrand your company after just 6 months or a year. You need to give it time so it registers in people's mind what you do, who you are, what the value you provide. And just like Alpha Graphics, you guys are talking about print, it's the exact same thing, right? You don't just hand it out once or send a postcard once, right? It takes repetition, but it's a holistic approach. It's email, it's social media, it's maybe website, it's referral, someone talking about it, and just happens you get a postcard. It's all these things together. That's why there's still real estate signs. If it's just social only, why would people stick a real estate sign in front of a $300,000 home, right? It's just seeing it, right? So we have to remember, when you're doing marketing, it's not just traffic online, but also tangible things that remind you of that brand. So appreciate having you today, and thanks for coming here. And no, it's such valuable information, because I think sometimes we forget, right? We get caught up in these new things, right? I call it trends, and then we forget what really work. What really work is not really TikTok or LinkedIn, right? Is consistent messaging. And it doesn't matter if, it's like you said, seeing, hearing, and feeling, right? It's a combination of all.
Absolutely.